Happy New Year and welcome to Coder Radio. So it's been a couple weeks. We took a little hiatus for the holidays. I hope you guys had a great time. I got a lot to share with you. First off, little housekeeping. Do get in that Discord. A lot of people are posting jobs. A lot of people are posting projects. Good stuff. Also, we have some events I'll be attending. Microsoft AI Tour coming up at the end of January. I think it's like the 21st, if I'm not mistaken. That's in New York City. So if you're there, give me a shout. And also Scale. That's right, the big Southern California Linux Expo. Finally getting over to that West Coast. I'll be there. Also, we have a promo code for 40% off your ticket if you want to go. That's in the show notes. Should be good. Finally, Misa gonna be with the Linux people. The Jar Jar continues. But for today, we have a really good show. We have Murtaza Doctor from ThousandEyes, which is a Cisco company brand. I wasn't super clear on that. But we talk a lot of high-level AI networking stuff, really industrial grade. It's Cisco, right? It's ThousandEyes. It's pretty enterprisey, but in a really good way. This might be a little more complicated, a little more, I don't want to say, I guess advanced is the right word, than our usual content. Part of that is for the new year, we're going to have a couple, every once in a while, a more like hard-hitting, deeply technical episode. So that should be fun for folks who've been asking for that. But we're going to keep the light, high-level stuff too. So this is kind of a maiden voyage. Murtaza is awesome, super smart. I also want to thank him for, after recording, he sent me a ThousandEyes t-shirt, which is fun to walk around because it kind of looks like the Eye of Sauron. So there's always, that Lord of the Rings angle you got to love. Do keep an eye out. A merch link is coming up with the new logos. We're going to have shirts. And I think a few things that are fun, not robes. There will be no robes. Robes are never happening. That was a terrible, terrible idea the first time, even though it's the best robe ever. And if you have one, it will be a collector's item forever. So there you go. All right. Well, enjoy the show. All right. As promised, I'm here at Murtaza Doctor from Cisco ThousandEyes. Murtaza, how you doing?
I'm good, Michael. How are you?
I'm feeling good. I do feel like I'm being watched. ThousandEyes is quite a bit.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to talk a lot about ThousandEyes and talk about our fun topic today as well.
Awesome. So just real quick, for folks who've never heard of ThousandEyes, you're a part of Cisco, but what is it exactly?
Yeah, happy to talk about ThousandEyes. I'll say this, broadly, ThousandEyes was founded a little over a decade ago, I would say. And it started on a very, very simple idea. What if you could see the internet the same way you could see your internal network? And that underlying premise obviously stands true to today as well. And because our apps have moved to SaaS and cloud, the internet became part of our delivery path, but totally opaque to everyone. And that's why also ThousandEyes is actually known as the Google Maps for the internet. So what we do actually is we run billions of measurements a day. And this happens across the cloud. It happens with ISPs, CDNs, DNS, SaaS paths. So if a major provider starts having issues, we see it often before they do. And I'll just tell you this. We have a very popular t-shirt, which actually I'm wearing right now, which is "Go ahead, blame the network."
I love it.
Yeah. And this is a t-shirt which actually customers love to wear during war rooms.
Absolutely.
That's how war rooms actually start, right? And once people started leveraging ThousandEyes, the network team suddenly got very quiet because now they have data to prove their innocence.
I could tell you, we're recording this on the 18th of December, folks, and I'm sure a lot of ISVs, such as myself, had a tough week last week with the Cloudflare outage. a lot of bad conversations with clients there. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Right. I would love to get you a t-shirt, Michael, as well.
I love it.
Hopefully it didn't get into your wardrobe as well. But I think with the journey of ThousandEyes, obviously we started as a startup and then we got acquired by Cisco in 2020. And this is when, we joined the superpower. And the fantastic thing about that is Cisco has all of the visibility, the control across multiple domains,
Absolutely.
which is switching, routing, Wi-Fi, SD-WAN. And then ThousandEyes comes in with this intelligence. So together now, you can do a lot more. And the visibility is, you can shine light through a variety of different things through ThousandEyes.
So that kind of leads nicely into our core topic here. I keep listening to podcasts and frankly CNBC And they say the internet is changing because of AI and agentic AI. Uh, with all your eyes, what do you see?
Absolutely right. I mean, I feel like our mission always has been about digital resilience, right? Which is helping organizations deliver great user experiences across everything they own and everything they don't. And the internet, like we discussed, has become so dynamic. It's multi provider based, there are chain of dependencies. And now we are layering autonomous AI agents on top of that. And what this does is this actually fundamentally changes how we think about networks, reliability, and performance.
Mm.
So this is the whole shift which we are seeing in terms of where the industry is going, and then that is exactly where we're leaning into, which is more of the agentic AI.
So when we say agentic AI, because I know it's a buzzword that frankly a lot of folks are using, right? What do we mean by that? What does Thousand Eyes mean by that in particular?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I have actually a very developer friendly way of defining agentic AI, which I like to use, which is traditional AI, the way we call it, or even chatbots today. I think of them as inference engines, which means that they respond to queries. Agentic AI is an action engine, so it actually executes. So if you think about an AI agent, all it is there is a large language model. It has access to a variety of tools behind the scenes. It's triggered by a series of events, or what we like to call as loops. And it is capable of planning, executing, and actually self-correcting itself. And the last part is what actually changes everything, right? This is where we talk about how can you drive the loop, which is you perceive, where you're gathering context, which is your logs, your APIs, your metrics, your telemetry, and then you're starting to reason about it. This is where the LLM comes in. You use an LLM to actually evaluate all the options you have, and then you want to act on it. And this is where you want to call your tools through APIs, through scripts, through workflows. And then the most important part is you actually are learning. You're adjusting based on your feedback. And just to give you an example, Michael, right? We had a incident internally within my SRE teams, where an agent actually detected elevated latency. And what it actually did behind the scenes is it expanded all of the ThousandEyes synthetic tests which we actually run. It pulled the BGP routing data, which is the Border Gateway Protocol routing data. It fetched variety of config diffs via MCP, which is our Model Context Protocol. It correlated everything. Not only that, it then went ahead and drafted a diagnostic note before even our SRE or any human could come on call and even open their Slack up. So this is what the power of agentic AI is, and it's taking us a long way. And there are obviously a variety of definitions here, which I would love to get into, but I kind of wanted to set the tone for us on what I believe what agentic AI is and how we are driving it at ThousandEyes.
So it's really interesting. So let me just kind of recap that. So the AI was able to see that something was going wrong in the loop, that there was a latency spike, and then send that information to the LLM, who then was able to send it to an MCP to basically diagnose the problem.
Yeah, absolutely right. I mean, I think this loop is so powerful because not only that you need to gather a lot of context very very quickly, which an agent is very capable of doing. You don't have to look for a needle in a haystack.
Right.
And then the reasoning part, which is the intelligence coming to the model, and we don't want to stop there. We actually want to act and do some things, which is, in this case, it not only correlated everything together to figure out that, what the actual issue was, it created what we call as an RCA, root cause analysis, or a diagnostic note around it, and sent it on Slack on the SRE channel for everyone to know. And the important part, which you mentioned, is the MCP part, right? And which is what we call as the Model Context Protocol. And the reason why this MCP really matters is because it is becoming the de facto standard for tool invocation.
Right.
Yeah. So in this case, you could have access to your GitHub, your Atlassian, your anything under the covers, a database, a file system. And it's basically like an agent to infrastructure API layer. And I think basically you can think of it like OAuth or REST, but for AI agents accessing enterprise systems. That's how I would like to call it.
Interesting. So it's acting as almost a, I guess, a bridge or a negotiator between the different AI systems.
Absolutely, right. And you just nailed it. And not only that, it gives you what I would call it at auditable and standardized in a secure access way to get access to anything, like you said, like databases, APIs, file systems, tools, SaaS apps, everything through a very, very structured protocol. So I really believe that with that standardization in effect, I think we can go a long way in terms of getting access to a variety of different contexts which you would need to drive in an agentic workflow.
Right, because theoretically, if you just adhere to the standard tightly, you could write an MCP for almost anything. I mean, lots of things already have MCPs. You mentioned GitHub. I think Atlassian does too, right? Where's
Yeah,
that? Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
Okay.
absolutely.
So your internal systems. Let's say you have an internal enterprise application. I don't know, like some kind of ERP or something. You theoretically could have that hooked into an MCP that also communicates with ThousandEyes to. I mean, I could maybe I'm getting a little too paranoid. My work with the MRO people, but look for like weird network incursions, right? Or people trying to upload strange things to your internal ERP that you know cost.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Absolutely. I think, all of those are very, very genuine examples, I would say, Michael, of real world use cases of MCP. And, we heavily use it. We expose a lot of our intelligence and capabilities through MCP, where customers can then integrate that. But you nailed it. I mean, this is the de facto standard. And, any standard access you need where your agent wants to have an interface or drive action, it's a great way to get access to it.
nice. I also took a look at your developer page here. I love that you have Postman collections ready to go. I use Postman all the time, so that's yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we really want to. I mean, we really serve the developers there, and we want to make sure like it's the easiest way to integrate more into, like, I would say, an operational workflow which they are used to driving. And what better if we can make that easy, whether it's through scripting and variety of snippets and other things. So that's just our way of making sure that you know our products and platforms are part of their day-to-day workflows. And
Right, and including things they're already using. I mean, obviously you mentioned Slack, but I'm noticing you have Terraform support. Tons of people are using Terraform. Tons of shops, right? Tons of enterprises are using Terraform.
absolutely, whatever makes the life of, I would say, our customer and our developer base easy, we want to expose that, and Terraform is actually a big part of that. So a lot of automation is something which we're driving through it, and it actually really fits well into agentic workflows as well. So it drives a lot of value for us internally.
I love it. So that's kind of the state of play where we are, right? But we're in the process of this AI. People call it transformation, revolution. I don't think it matters what you call it. Where do you think we're going? Since you've got your I keep using the pun, your thousand eyes on the internet. What's the next step, right? What's this going to turn to?
Yeah, I feel like, I think the way I look at it is that agentic AI is changing the internet, and I think I would say that the next big thing after cloud mobile phones, I think we're in that era of agentic AI, and I really believe, like you described it, it's the next revolution which we are in, and really great to be part of this era, right? Because we can drive so many things, and as part of this, if you just talk about the internet, right? Once AI agents become your primary users, everything changes. And I think of it as multiple shifts which are happening. The first shift which I think about is human traffic going to agent traffic,
Yes,
which,
yes.
right? That is the biggest thing we're all seeing, right? Which is, and human traffic is slow, and it's predictable, and agents operate at machine speed. So now you're talking about fan out API calls, you're talking about multi-step workflows, a variety of parallel requests, aggressive retries. So it's just changing the whole just changing the entire landscape. And we ran a little booking agent experiment, right? And what happened is that, a human made one click, and that turned into multiple parallel calls across 5 different APIs,
Absolutely.
right? You're getting your flights, your hotels, your weather, your payments, your loyalty programs. And what we noticed there is that there was a single delay in a weather API of 120 milliseconds, which actually broke the entire workflow.
Oof.
Right. And that's the shift we are seeing, right? Because of this massive fan out, which we are saying through agentic workflows, which are happening, one single click, and you could see the broad spectrum of things which it was trying to access and change. And that's kind of the first shift, the way I like to call it, which is human traffic to agent traffic.
It's so funny you use that as an example. I just did that. So planning my Q2, Q3, I tend to go to trade shows for that MRO aviation community that I serve. And it used to take me hours. But think about it. You got to find the LinkedIn groups. Who's talking about, who's putting on a show? Where's the show? Is it crazy expensive to go to? And then with flights, right? I have United Airlines. I've been a customer forever. So you get all the, accumulated benefits and points. So I tend to want to fly United when I can. Hotel, same things. Let's use my loyalty program so we could get a break on the hotel or a nicer room or some free breakfast or whatever. I had, I think it was Gemini. I had Gemini, the whatever it is, the Gemini Pro. Just go out and do it all for me. And it said, "Here's your itinerary. You can book it if you want." It did everything, and it must have taken it maybe a minute. What would have taken me a couple hours.
That's great. And what better time of the year to talk about that, right? Like everybody's planning their next trip end of the year. So
Absolutely.
there's so many things, like you said, happening, and it's like dramatically changing, how we are operating in this new world. And I think that takes us to my shift number two, which is kind of non-deterministic dependencies. And I feel like this is a big one. And the way I like to call it is that agents, they change their behavior kind of mid-flight based on context. So, there is a stream of dependencies you're expecting, and there are A, B, and C services, and suddenly you're no longer just depending on service A. And in your example, like you're trying to book things, now you're depending on A, B, C, their upstream, their CDN, their authentication provider, and you could now go on and on with the dependency chain. And this is, I believe this is the actual birth of agentic internet, right? Which is how things and dependencies are being completely non-deterministic. And that's a massive shift which we are seeing today.
Yeah, and it's going to grow, I would presume. We're going to see, I mean, I think the idea of, me or you, browsing through Google pages to figure out our trips or to figure out our trade show strategy or whatever it is we're doing, I think that's basically done, right?
Yeah.
It's certainly going to be done in the future. You could see an MCP, right, for a United Airlines, in my example. Why not? Why? All they'd have to do is allow it.
Absolutely. I completely agree with you. And I think, things have become so much accessible, and it's actually, such an easy approach to drive things going forward, that I think, more and more we're going to see this shift happen across the board. And like you said, it's actually changing our day-to-day lives in a very, very dramatic way, and, making us a lot more productive.
Absolutely.
And I think that, I feel like talking about kind of another shift, which is more, and I think you and I see this, and we just talked about it, right? Our expectations are changing, and we're now moving from service level agreements, which is what we call as SLA,
Oh, yeah.
to service level expectations, right? Which is, for agents, the question is not like, was the path up? It's like, did my workflow or the action I was trying to do, did it successfully complete with correct data? And that's the only metric that matters, right? If you're doing a booking, like you said, your goal is like, hey, did I get my flight? Did I get my hotel? Did they use my loyalty program? Did I get my points? And that's what really matters. And that's what the big dramatic shift which we are seeing is moving from SLAs. I mean, we want to talk about expectations now, which is SLEs.
Yeah, I think that's absolutely going to be true. So, where does this take Thousand Eyes then? Let's say you were basically tying this all up to intelligently diagnose issues. What else can you do maybe more proactively?
Yeah, I think, from a perspective of Thousand Eyes, right? Like, we help customers operate in this world, and there is one area where we have built agentic workflows, which is cloud insights, and this is a very, very powerful area. And I think what it enables is we can detect config issues happening in real time. And the idea is to correlate cloud paths, routing, and user experience. So we all know that the biggest issues happen when you start changing your config or fat fingering config files. So
Oh,
this
yeah.
particular product actually allows you to simulate changes before your deployment and auto detect any drifts in configuration, right? And if you think about a multi-domain assurance across cloud and routing and other things, this becomes a real thing, right? So, just to highlight, one of our customers actually had an intermittent purchase failure in a multi API workflow, right? And Cloud Insights, which is one of our products, it correlated the user impact. It went ahead and figured out the path degradation. you know it looked at a routing change which was made, a config push, and then produced the root cause in under 2 minutes, right? And a human
Wow.
team would take hours figuring it
Hours.
out, and this would be like a toss call happening or an escalation call where every team would come on board and we're trying to figure out, and look at the root cause here. The root cause started with just a configuration change.
That's impressive. Yeah, the the old way, that's ordering a pizza and everybody's working late situation, right? It's a good day for
Correct.
Domino's, a bad day for you.
Yeah,
Yeah,
right. And yeah, and look at the example we had, right? Like, so on November 18th, we had a major Cloudflare outage, right? And what we observed from a Thousand Eyes perspective is we actually saw the network paths to Cloudflare's front end were clean. There were no spikes in latency. There was no packet loss. The internet paths looked all green, but the application traffic was failing with timeouts and 500
yeah,
errors,
500s. Yeah,
right? And this is a classic backend service failure, not a routing or a path issue, right? Now imagine this outage in an agentic driven world. Cloudflare sits between users and APIs for everything, right? Whether you're talking about, you know, OpenAI, X, Anthropic, dozens of more
all
things,
of
right?
them.
So
Yeah,
when Cloudflare's backend broke, entire agent workflows would have failed, right? They would have retried, they would have cascaded, the load would have multiplied. And that's, I think, brings back to your original thing, right? Which we just discussed, that's why our SLEs matter. And that's why Thousand Eyes is so relevant, because we focus on SLEs, to drive those experiences for our customers. And that's what really matters, right? So it doesn't really matter. And in this case, right, the path was green, and the workflow was catastrophically failing. So you can see the impact of some of these outages happening. And obviously, we as Thousand Eyes, we love to shed light on some of these things. We actually submit our reports around these outages as well. And if you actually go to thousandeyes.com/outages, you'll actually be able to see a global map of all of the outages on the application and network sides happening in real
oh wow, that might be a little depressing though,
time.
depending on
That's true.
depending on what's out, right? Is it Cloudflare or AWS another disaster if when that happens?
Absolutely, absolutely. I mean, I think the idea is that think about it as a, like, something which is on your network operations, control, right? You have it on your NOC, you have your dashboard of all the outages happening, and it saves so much time and energy because you can see something happening in real time, and then you can start correlating that with, hey, how is this outage impacting me today? And it's very, very quickly correlation causation which happens. And what better to drive that all through an agentic workflow?
Yeah, it makes a ton of sense to me because you can gather the data, and the AI can analyze it faster than you can for sure. Yeah, I like the loop. All right, so I always wrap at one question. It's a little bit of a curveball. And what is one tool that you can't live without? Now, tool is very loosely defined. We just had a guy come on and say it was his electric bike. For me, it's my electric kettle. The only stipulation is it can't be a tool that you, Cisco, or ThousandEyes make. It's got to
Right.
be
Wow. Okay.
something else, but it can be anything.
Fantastic. I will say this, right? Like, on the topic of agentic AI and the world we live in now, in my personal life, I use a tool called Notion, uh,
Yes. Mm-hmm.
right? And I love it because it's kind of my personal assistant, my personal diary, if you will. All of the travel which I plan, any personal projects I'm planning a variety of different things. I just love it because I can organize my thoughts so well in it. And not only that, it gives me like a little bit of a flow in my to-do items. And am I connecting my calendar with it to figure out like, am I getting actually things done? It actually has improved my productivity quite a bit, Michael. And it just it fits in seamlessly with my workflow. I just don't feel like I'm transacting with it. It just feels very natural in the way I use it on a day-to-day basis. And to be honest, I'm pushing my family and friends and others to use it as well, so that I can share things through Notion as well. It's an ongoing battle which I'm fighting.
I still take my notes on a pencil and paper, on graph paper, but I hear amazing things about Notion. Like, you've got to be in the last month, like the third or fourth person to tell me that you gotta try Notion, man. I'm living back in the 50s here with my pencil and graph paper, but it's
No, whatever makes him productive. But I mean, we all have our different ways of driving things. And to be honest, like to date, I also am using sticky notes, and
yep.
it drives my wife nuts. Like, why do you have all these sticky notes lying around? I'm like, I just function better like that. Now I'm just trying to take my sticky notes and move it to Notion. So
It makes a ton of sense. Well, Murtaza, thank you for coming on. We'll throw any links in the show notes for ThousandEyes and anything else you want to share with the folks.
no, this was an amazing experience. I really appreciate the time, and I really believe that we're heading into a world where things are dramatically changing. Digital resilience now means like end-to-end visibility, and we are in a world where assurance, means that the networks never sleep, the agents never stop, and every interaction matters.
Absolutely. Absolutely. It's a big transitional period. It's going to be a big change. All right, Murtaza. Well, hopefully we'll talk to you again soon.
Absolutely, Michael. Thank you.
Thank you.